Can we just give a round of applause to all of you people who are here on this video? My dog is right here, so hopefully he doesn't knock the tripod over. But he's a cute little black puppy. Well, actually, he's not really a puppy, but he's a black-coated pit bull. But let's just give a round of applause to everybody who's watching this video. I appreciate you guys for joining. This, of course, is the Broken Kid Podcast. I'm excited to have you guys here. And, let's just go ahead and have a good time. Like I said, once again, that's what we're here for. We're here to have a good time. Now, you're probably wondering why I have these sunglasses on. They're Ray-Bans, just so you know. Look at them. But it's the whole thing is very inspired by the whole outfit of Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Once Upon a Time. So I guess I watch it. I have this thing where I watch movies and then I want to be like the characters that I watch. That being said, we're going to get this is actually quite fitting because we're going to be talking about the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we're not talking about them, but we are talking about California. And if any of you guys know, we're going to be talking about serial killers. The craziest man in the 80s is a man who goes by the name of Richard Ramirez. Now, for those of you who don't know who he is, he is one of the craziest serial killers, active from from the 80s to like the early 80s, 85 to like 89, I think. And then you're wondering, well, what does he do? What did he do? Did he do drugs? Did he kill people? Did he sexually assault women? And the answer is yes, he did all of those. Now you might be wondering, why am I covering this? Well, there's this interesting story, So essentially he was a kid, right? And amongst being a kid, he didn't grow up in the best child in the best house. For instance, one of the things that he saw was this idea. He ended up seeing his cousin kill his wife right in front of him. He was a Vietnam war veteran, and he came back with all these pictures. I'm not talking about Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez at the time was a very young kid at the time, of course. And his cousin performs this gruesome act. Richard Ramirez sees this. But prior to this, the war veteran from Vietnam had practically taken all these pictures, and I believe they could be referred to as Polaroids. I believe it was still a thing back then. He had these Polaroids, and they were very gruesome pictures of all the things that he had committed, the atrocities. So what does he do? It takes live leak to a whole new level, or live gore, because before there was live gore, there would be pictures like this that were kind of, I guess you could say, hard to obtain, hard to acquire. So, you can imagine what that does to a kid who sees that. Now, people are going to go ahead. Now, you might be wondering, what does Once Upon a Time in Hollywood have to do with any of this? Well, let me tell you. The director, Quentin Tarantino, has been known for getting a lot of criticism for his movies being too harsh, too violent, too aggressive, and too hostile. And the belief behind this and the criticism is rooted in, what is it that people see? What if young people see this and they go on to replicate it? I don't know if that's a real thing. Am I going to downplay it? That's what it's going to sound like, and some people might not like that for what I'm going to say. I don't think that this is my opinion. If you truly believe that you can compare what you see on TV to witnessing a real life gruesome murder, I think you need to do some revisions, because look, I watch a lot of horror movies, and as much as I love them, I'm not one of those people who uses horror movies as a way to say, hey, look at me, I watched a gruesome movie and I was able to endure this much, or I can put myself and endure all these gruesome imagery. Because I believe that, first of all, it's not real. Second of all, I haven't seen a real life gruesome murder. So I don't equate what I see on screen to what people have actually seen firsthand in the name of cold blood and murder. And that is what there's a speculation as to whether or not that corrupted Richard Ramirez's life. Now, here's going to be a picture of Richard Ramirez, just in case you don't know who he is. Yes, the picture's in the thumbnail, but I just wanted to be a little bit more comprehensive. And if, of course, he went to go on and do this. He showed him the pictures, and his adult life was pretty much him breaking into these places and stealing money and stealing crack. But eventually he would go on to commit one of his first kills, and amongst doing so, he would do it alongside the aid of cocaine and drugs, and This is a man who essentially was considered very, rightfully so. The things he did, he would break in, he would often break into houses that happened to have spouses. So a husband and a wife. Now we're at the point where he actually starts to kill people. Okay? So now he's probably roughly like 23 or so. If you look at more pictures of him, you're going to go on to find out that he didn't have the best teeth. Now you may find pictures of him like that. They're very hard to come across. But the whole story is, this guy was so ugly, this man was so disgusting looking, that if he was ever on top of you, people would always remember the look of this man, not because he was just hideous, but because he had stinky ass breath. Can you believe that? Imagine you're a murderer and the thing that people say is like, yeah, he killed my wife, or he tried to kill me. But, if you look up those teeth, they're nasty. And apparently the thing with him was that he loved too much candy. And let me just go ahead and be back right now. Look, excuse me. Give me a few seconds. Shit. So, we are back! Look, if you have a problem with sweets like I do, you might want, this is the Dr. Pepper. You know what, let's take this moment to make it an interrupted announcement. And we are back now on the Broken Kid podcast, and this is an advertisement not brought to you officially by anyone, but this is a commercial unofficially brought to you by the one, the only Dr. Pepper. And remember, guys, it's got 23 natural flavors, 24 if you count love as an ingredient. And remember, if you're drinking anything else, you're drinking bullshit. Now we get back to the routine schedule. Like I was saying, this man was so disgusting, this motherfucker was so disgusting that he would as a kid, he would eat so much candy that one of his friends eventually ended up saying, hey, you gotta lay it off and you gotta go brush your teeth. Has anyone ever said that to you? I had it happen to me once, but I had like a nasty meal and it was horrendous, and I had somebody tell me you gotta go brush your teeth, and I did. So now I just brush my teeth like for 4 minutes at a time, 3 times a day, or whatever, however many times you have to. If you eat a meal, you have to brush it, because that stuff can get stuck in your clothes. And this is not supposed to be like a pediatric moment for me to teach you. Like I'm not an orthodontist, but these are all the things. Come on, Caballo. Look, come on. Can you see my dog? I don't know if you can see him. Look, I'll pick him up. Oh, back it! Damn it! He's right here. Should I just do the whole thing with him like this? Yeah, I'm gonna do the whole thing with him. Oh God, it's like a lap dance. Oh God. Oh God. There we go. Anyhow, we're gonna do the whole thing like this. He's like my papa. He's my. Oh shit. Yeah, there we go. So anyhow, look. What I'm trying to say is this is gonna be really hard. Yeah. Fuck. Well, we all saw how bad that went. But anyhow, look. He goes on, a lot of people, aside from saying, it's almost like the thing that they cared less about was the murders and more so how nasty he was with his teeth and breath. Like, imagine you're getting, like, stabbed upon, and that, you're like, oh my God, this man's teeth are hideous, because that's what it was. And, that is also how he went to go get caught. So if you're going to commit a crime, now it's like so hard to commit a crime. Trust me. Been there, done that, and it's just an impossible thing. The dog wants to go play. Go over there. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. It's pretty... Back then it was a different time you could get away with things. For instance, the Zodiac Killer. He was able to do things, and no one knows who he really truly is, even till this day. But, the main cause that would go on to get him caught was... They almost caught him. So upon pulling him over at a traffic stop, because they think, is this car... This is where the cops and LAPD messed up. So they pull him over and they're like, is this the cop that is this a stolen car? And Richard Ramirez was in that car. First of all, if you have a suspect, if you suspect or you have an inclination that somebody stole something, you don't do this. You don't say, excuse me, sir. You also, if you don't say sir, what you do is you don't do this. You don't say, Excuse me, sir. Is this car that you're driving stolen? Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and just run the plates to see that everything is up on registration. And what you don't do is you don't turn your back. And then let the guy get away, because that's exactly what happened on this traffic stop. He was able to leave. He left. He was able to flee the scene. So now they have no way to like really capture this guy. So of course he goes back to his routine killings, and he would enter through buildings, and he killed a couple of people, and he would go on to even kill like a 9-year-old girl, and that would go on to be revealed later in years because of the development of DNA. Now, this is just one example of how they screwed over. Not only is he crazy, this might as well be called the luckiest man in LA. And I'm not talking about the people, the Hollywood executives that get away with all the horrible things they do. I'm talking about Richard Ramirez. So, it gets really interesting because I think in that car, I believe they find like a dental appointment card, and it gives the name and the place and time for where he's going to go to this appointment. So they go and they miss it, and they say, hey, was this guy here? This guy, did he ever come in? And they're like, yeah, but you missed him. And he said, but don't worry. The doctor, the dental doctor said, don't worry, guys, to the detectives, which I'm not going to give the name of because they effed this whole thing up. And if you look into the full documentary on Netflix, it's almost near propaganda because it makes it seem like they were the ones who like helped solve this case, when in reality, I'll get into it. But essentially, there's this whole idea of no, this guy is gonna come back. Richard Ramirez will come back. And the reason goes back to those horrible teeth that he had. Those teeth were so horrible that he had like an embedded molar that was causing pain. He's like, there's no way he's not going to come back here. So the detective set up like a hotline directly to that doctor, that you can hit a button and it's going to like ring them to the detectives, right? Because what they had tried to do was to stake out. They were staking out for him to come back. But of course, it was taking too long. Days were going by, and the city was like, "Hey, you guys are just wasting time waiting there." So they set up a button, right? They set up a button that they can call, and it's going to be a direct line to these detectives and to the police department of LA. Now, of course, Ramirez goes back as predicted. The bad thing is this: look, he goes back. He tries to figure. The doctor does what he was told. He hits the button, so then nothing happens. And then a few days later, detectives go back again and they say, "Hey, did he ever come back?" And the doctor says, "Yes, he did come back. I hit the button and I tried to call you guys, but nobody ever came, so they missed him." So now it's just a very fascinating aspect. And then one of the cars that he was pulled over in was taken to a junkyard. Now, if you don't know anything about fingerprints, I took a class in fingerprint, so forget that part. Here's the thing. The thing about fingerprints is they can stay on a surface, but there might be certain reasons as to why you can't obtain fingerprints, Because there was a fingerprint that they had seen, and they were going to go acquire it. But because it was left out in the sun, you have sweat and fat on your fingerprints, on your fingers. It's what's secreted. But the sun had evaporated all the water from that print, so there was no more viable print. So now they're screwed, So now this guy is not just the luckiest; he is the motherfucking luckiest. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, it gets worse because he continues to kill people. And now this is where it gets really interesting. He's driving that one time. He's driving down looking to like pretty much see who's killing people, right? Or if he can kill. And there's a little boy who sees. This is where his luck starts to kind of dwindle a little. He sees a car that's suspiciously driving by. It wasn't driving like a normal car. It was driving a little too slow, as if he was practically trying to seek somebody to do the thing again. And of course, he killed a lot. Like I said, he would break in and kill people. He would kill the spouse and then the woman. He had an agenda. He had an MO. His MO was to leave his victims to label them as victims as much as possible. He wanted them to not have a fighting chance. He wanted to limit that possibility so that it could be easier for him to execute them, quite literally. And in that, this kid remembers the license plate. So, of course, he calls the cops and he remembers a partial print, right? So then he finds the car abandoned a few blocks down the street, and they pick up a latent print, a print that is referred to as, it's not seen. It can be seen there, but upon using other mediums like dust and tape, they're able to see it. It's now present. So they collect it, they put it in the database, and it comes back as Richard Ramirez. So now with this information, they can attach a fingerprint to the face, because prior to that, he had been convicted as committing lesser crimes. It was like robbering and entering or something like that. So now he's in a database for fingerprints, and this fingerprint that they find, they're able to pair it up with him. So now they're like, okay, so and on that night, he tried to break into one room, but he couldn't, so he breaks into another, and he fails in killing this victim, and she's screaming, and that's when the cops are called, and they find the they find the car. It goes on to become this whole ordeal, but essentially this was a man who was a solo operator. It's amazing because he's almost like Marilyn Manson, but without the followers. This is a crazy man. Let's not get that wrong. If I saw him in an alleyway, I'd probably run away. But he probably wouldn't do anything because his primary victims were. He would probably kill me, but if you were a woman, he would had a different agenda. And now this is so, because I wish I could be in Hollywood. One day I think I'm going to end up making a movie, because this whole thing really does sound like a movie. Because another aspect of a failed attempt was when they found a shoe print, the obvious shoe print. And, they acquire it, they save it, and it's like a size 13, and they look up how many size 13 shoes are in the world here in California. There was only one, and it was made in, they were able to figure it out, and they said this is such an outlier size that there's only one here, so that means our person is here. Somehow, the governor of another city adjacent to the city of California, within the cities of California, there was another adjacent city in which the governor said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this shoe print out. So the belief is that Richard Ramirez took the shoes that he had, that were the ones that he was committing his crimes in, and threw them into the Golden Gate Bridge. So now, again, failed attempt. But that was prior to it. That was prior to when they found the fingerprint on the rear mirror, and that was the one that was coined in by the kid. The kid gave the tip, and so now, like I'm saying, they have a face, and they can confirm that there is a face to who this person is. Because prior to that, they had only had sketches. Now I'm not going to go ahead and push the sketches because the sketches are kind of scary. What are we at? Can you see me? Shh. Look at that camera pull. But anyhow, so now they go local. They go public with all these scary images of who Richard Ramirez is. So now they're everywhere. Now, Richard Ramirez at this time, this is when his luck is starting to dwindle. It's almost like a lottery ticket man who no longer has it no more. Who no longer has his money. He's spent it all. So what does he decide to do? He's on a Greyhound bus from Arizona entering California. And as he's entering California on the Greyhound buses, they're everywhere. All these pictures, and people start to murmur. So what does he do? He starts to get the idea that people are after him. So he runs out the bus, and he runs like a few blocks across, right? And he tries to take a person's car. Doesn't succeed, thank God. And it's a woman. Again, he's targeting a woman and trying to get her out of the car. She pushes back, and he starts to run. But as he starts to run, the husband comes out with a bat and hits him in the head. And there's this infamous picture of him where if you look it up, he looks like a Looney Tunes character, wrapped all around his head. So this really becomes a story of where the whole neighborhood was terrified of this unknown figure, and up until a few days, now they have a face. So what do the people try to do? They actually mob up against him, like they gang up on him, and they like beat him up and practically retain him. And there's this crazy story that's interesting, and it's kind of funny because the officer who ends up arresting him, his last name was Ramirez, and he like, oh my god, he like before going out on there, he's like, oh shit, I gotta look it up that I'm not tied up to him. And I think that the story goes is that he was like his longtime cousin or something, like a distant cousin. So imagine being the cousin of a murderer who's out here raping and killing people. And the whole thing is just so crazy. But he eventually gets put in jail, you know. And if you think, you know, yeah, his luck was bad. But guess what? He ends up getting married in jail. There's a bunch of what we call groupies where they just circle around this man and they talk to him. And they were like idolizing him. You would think these people would be appalled by it. But for some reason they were followers, like a cult leader. And, you know, it just goes to show that you better be careful who you interact with, because you never know. They may come to you, or you may interact with them without knowing it. The thing here is to be safe, because you never know when you're going to find your next Richard Ramirez. There's not a whole lot of serial killers now in modern day America, because it's just so hard to kill one person, let alone 15 or 20 or 30. You know, that's a product of its past time. Unfortunately, a lot of people think these are like novels. They go ahead and they try to take inspiration from it. Like, for instance, in the Maxine movie, the horror movie with Mia Goth, there is like a storyline in which it was fabricated, but it consists of there being the Night Stalker. So there's that instance. But I would love to film a movie that is much more realistic and has honest beat-to-beat moments of this individual. I don't think I would star in it, but just imagine like a movie like that being made. And you know what I've recognized is that these podcast episodes have been getting a lot darker and darker. So tomorrow I'm going to try to be a little bit more comical or satirical. And that being said, I hope you guys have a good time. I hope you guys enjoy yourself. I hope you don't take yourself too serious. And I hope you guys had some sort of blast or fun or found this insightful. That being said, it is I, your host, Alex Silva, and I am logging off, and I hope you guys take care. See ya!